All right, so welcome. And just reminding everyone that we're recording this meeting, and also Jay has agreed to handle the questions in the chat. So feel free to comment and ask away. I have, as usual, a few things on my agenda, and then I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Again, I apologize for the audio issue. The first thing, I'm going to share my screen. The first thing that I want to share with everybody is that I have changed the look of the blog. And so I'm going to share my screen. So can everybody see that? Okay, so the blog has changed quite a bit. So this is the homepage of the blog. I'm really hoping that it's easier to use and easier to search things. It is a work in progress, and I am still working on updating things and adding things. But for right now, this is the home screen. So if you just scroll down, you'll be able to see the Healthy Families discussion meeting information. I'm going to be updating this right after this meeting. But if you want to look at instructional videos, you just click here. And here are all of our instructional videos. You can just click. As long as you have an account for YouTube, you are able to view these videos. And here is the link for the discussion groups. All of our previously recorded discussion groups are right here. And again, just click to take a look. Here's just a little silly, fun thing that I do every month. And any recent updates for the MIS will be right here. Again, I'm going to be updating that and just tweaking it a little bit. And I also have plans for a frequently asked question and old missive page where you can click on it, and I'm going to make it more searchable. So you can just search here and hopefully get like supervision information, or I don't know, any MIS form information that is in previous missives or new updated documents that we have. So, and of course, I'm always looking for feedback from you guys. So I'm really looking forward to you guys hopefully telling me that you can search this easier now. That's that. The next thing on my agenda is recently, because there's a lot of new programs, a lot of new users. And so again, I'm getting questions about the differences between MIS permissions and the worker roles. So this was in a previous missive. I am going to post it on our new blog, but I just thought I would just read the section that we had in a previous missive. So the MIS login account the MIS login account controls the access to the MIS application, and there are different roles that allow different levels of permission within the MIS. The logins are requested via the ticketing system by a supervisor or a program manager, and then the accounts are created by the IT team. After they are created, we will respond to the ticket, and we want to include the new user in the ticket, sharing their new username and instructions on how to create and reset their password. The job function is located on the worker form under settings, and the worker form is entered by the supervisor or program manager. Again, the worker record is only available to users that have an MIS permissions of a supervisor, and the supervisor permission is the highest level of permission that we have in the MIS for users. The job function directs responsibilities of each worker. The job function directs responsibility each worker has within the Healthy Families model. And the job function is linked to the worker drop-down list, query filters, the report catalogs, and trainings. So again, I'm going to be posting this on the blog. Hopefully that clears up any questions or problems people have had recently. And the next and last item on my agenda actually came from Corrine Noble, and she would like to remind everyone on how to handle the family goal plan form when the family achieves a goal prior to the closing of a case. The achievement date should be equal to the discharge date to avoid having the case appear as missing a family goal plan on the 6-2B report. Okay, is everybody clear about that? So again, the achievement date should equal the discharge date. So that's the end of my agenda, thank God. And I'm just going to open it up to you guys and just ask your questions.
I have two things I wanted to bring up today. One is just appreciation for the updates of adding the target child's birthing facility to the TC ID and outcomes form. So I appreciate that so much. And the second was a suggestion for the service plan, or maybe you can give me more insight around how it was sort of programmed the way it is. We find that when we're like updating service plans, it's hard to click each of the domains and then like have to scroll down. Is there any way we can make it like widthwise where when we click a specific domain, it drops down that section of the service plan so we can make sure we're typing in the appropriate one and then close it rather than have to click and scroll? It just, there's so many domains that sometimes it's hard to really like take a look at the service plan on a computer screen when it's lengthwise versus horizontal.
So I'm going to turn this over to Jay because it's a programming question.
Okay.
So Nora, I kind of understood your concern that especially when you have a lot of text in each of the domains, it goes down. But are you saying you want the domains to be horizontal, stacked on top of each other? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it would be nice if they were just like little, like when you opened up the service plan, if it was like little like domain bubbles. And when you clicked that bubble, it opened up risk factor, protective factor, plans implemented, plan progress, just to be able to see it in a format that makes documenting in it easier. Because when it's vertical, you know, while that might be easy to like, I guess like I don't know, see the thread a little bit easier when you are getting down into the nitty gritty of the middle of that service plan. You sort of have to click and scroll and click and scroll. And there have been times where we've accidentally put stuff in different domains and then we've caught it and we're like, oh, we have to change that here. We clicked the wrong one. So it'd be easier if it was just something that we were able to like hide and then specifically click on the section we want to target or work on in that time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand your concern about the form. I think that you know, this should be a little more discussion about how the easiest way to access these things are. You know, there's so much information that it's difficult to present it in a very easily readable way. But you know, Nora, we're certainly open to suggestions about how this may be easier to use. We haven't gotten any similar feedback, so anybody who wants to participate can chime in. But I mean, you know, we could try to reconfigure it. I just think we'd have to land on how we wanted to reconfigure it to make it easiest to read.
Okay,
and
thank you.
navigate. Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question. Sometimes I've noticed like when I'm adding case notes or even in the service plan, the dates are not consecutive. Like the other day I put something in, and it was November, and then I couldn't find it. Like October and September were ahead of it.
That happens to me sometimes. The system seems to remember which field you want to filter by, kind of like the TC Med, how you can like filter and group like the immunizations. So when that happens, if you like make sure that you click to filter by the date, it'll filter by the date of the most recent service plan, instead of filter by approved or not. I had to figure that out the hard way with a couple of them.
It looks as though we're not allowing it to be sorted by date. I'm not sure why that is. But I mean, the only thing we're allowing it to be sorted by is the approved column, which is kind of useless. I do know that sometimes, well, first of all, these little grid views that we use, some of them do save your settings from session to session, so that if you were sorted a certain way, the next time you go in, it'll continue to be sorted that way. I'm not sure if this is one of them, but the case I'm looking at right now, I can't do that. So, but it's possible that the sorting was not working, and that's why we didn't allow it to be sorted that way, or maybe we just didn't even want to allow you to change the sort, because then once you get onto a second page, things could be, seemingly lost when they're just a sorting issue. But again, we want to make this as usable and as friendly as possible. So I think we should, at a minimum, add the date updated, to allow you to sort on the date updated, in addition to, I don't even think the approved column is that useful, but for sites that do approvals on it, it could be useful, because then that'll pop up the ones that are unapproved right at the top. But would that address your issue, Caitlin?
Sheila.
I just kind of had to add into my workflow to make sure I was sorting by date before opening a new one.
I mean, I'm wondering if you guys could send us a couple screen prints so we could visualize it. And then when we have an IT meeting every Monday morning, and we have we're always looking for ideas and things that can help you guys. So this might be a perfect case scenario for that. So I don't know if you can send, you could send a ticket and have a couple screen prints, and then we can take a look at it on Monday, all of us, the programmers and everybody.
Yeah, I think Sheila and Caitlin, if you sent us in some tickets with maybe, like as Corey suggested, a screenshot, and you can elaborate a little more on how you would like to see it work, then we would certainly take that feedback into account and
Sure thing.
I'll do that today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
welcome.
I have a question, please. Hi.
Hi.
Yesterday, I was preparing for supervision, and I was looking at some case notes and home visit logs, and I noticed that the FSS had put in an ASQ. But the reason, after we spoke about it, because I noticed that there weren't any scores. She put in the ASQ to make sure that it was known that the TC was receiving early intervention services. And I had wondered if that was, if it might be better for her to make sure that that's known, that they're already receiving services, and then ASQ wasn't needed, without clicking that box as if she completed an ASQ, because I'm not sure if that's the right place or way to document that, but I also don't know how else to let the system know that that child is receiving services. I can clarify a little. That's a lot.
Yeah, that is.
So it kind of
Well-
makes it seem like she completed an ASQ, but when I looked into the record, there were no scores. She wasn't able to write scores because the box at the top said TC already receiving services.
Right.
And we discussed it, so I just wanted, I let her know that I would get a little bit of clarity on the proper way to make it be known that this child was connected to the proper resources, but also I don't want it to look like this child had a completed ASQ in our reports.
So-
Yeah, we,
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Corey, go ahead. No, you
No.
go ahead.
So it's my understanding that when the receiving services button is clicked, that it releases that case from having ASQs. So any scores that were, correct me if I'm wrong, Corinne and Jay, but if you click that button, then the boxes with the fields for the scores, that you're not allowed to enter
Yes.
them, correct?
That's what happened, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, so my feeling is that she won't show as having an ASQ.
Okay.
For, during, now I know that when there is something that happens when that box is unclicked for future, ASQs, Jay, I just want to be clear on this. So when a box is unclicked, that means that it starts again. It like on the date that ASQ is entered, it starts wanting the ASQs again, correct?
Well, yeah. So the thing is that while the child is receiving early intervention services, there's no need for each site to do an ASQ. That ASQ presumably is done by the professional that's providing the services. So we just want you to put the ASQ into the slot where it normally would have gone, so then at least you get credit for it without actually having to do it. And that's what checking that box does. Checking that box gives you credit for doing the ASQ, and you don't have to enter the scores or any other information. That's basically what it's for. But again, I would have to look at the specific situation to see what the issue with that particular case was, or where it was not looking right.
I'm joining the call very late. I'm sorry, I was in another call. But you know, like one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that staff don't forget about this family, to continue to find out about what their situation is, because as we all know, early detection is key. So if somebody, if they stop receiving services or not no longer involved, the FSS should pick up again. And that's what Corey was saying, like it will start asking you again to make sure that everything is, somebody is paying attention to the development of this kid. But during the time that somebody else is doing it, you can just let go and say, like, okay, somebody else is responsible of doing this.
Okay, that's helpful. Sounds like we're doing it right, and I'll relay that when we meet later. Thank you very much.
There's also, Melissa, there's also an FAQ. We are about to publish a new and updated version of the frequently asked questions for everyday practice onto the website. I'm working on it right now, and it will be published very soon. So there is a whole chapter on ASQs and what would determine that. I remember Joe many years ago already said, like, what happens with that family where we know that we shouldn't be asking because the kid is developmentally, not ready? You don't want to put parents through that either. So that would be a case where you would check, like the kid is already, probably receiving services because he has this big disability. We don't want to come and ask, oh, how is your kid doing with, you don't want to put the family into that situation. So that is when you would click the box. That box appeared because of that, like giving the opportunity of not putting the family through those questions.
So,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
Tatiana, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I understand this now. So what I'm hearing is that if a child is receiving services, that child should not show up in the ASQ tickler report, meaning that they need an ASQ.
Yes.
Is that correct?
No,
They should not show up.
No, they do appear, Tatiana.
They do appear. So in order for them not to appear there, we would have to click, even though they're receiving services, we would click ASQ. However, we would say select receiving services, but the score does not need to be there.
Exactly. So basically, in the tickler, it will still, or the dashboard, it will still show up because we want you to make sure that things are or continue the same. I remember another case, sometimes bilingual kids, they are a bit slower in certain, things. And maybe just like practicing or some of the activities that the FSS does gets them to a point where they don't need any more services. So then you would unclick and you would continue being, making the ASQs all the way till they're 5. For the cases that you are the ones, or you should be the ones making sure that if the kid needs it, the ASQ is done. If the kid is receiving services, you just click there, kid is receiving services. It will still alert you, but that is where the FSS comes in and says, oh, the kid is still receiving services, so I don't need to do the ASQ, or but you're still on it. You don't forget about ASQs forevermore.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we had a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is from Lisa Burmeister, and is there any way that we can have a follow-up form at 48 months, pre-populate the discharge follow-up form when family is discharged at the same time? I'm not sure why the discharge form doesn't ask if you want to pre-fill like the other ones do, because that would make sense to me.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look at it, why it doesn't do the same behavior as the other intervals, but I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to add.
Yep.
So I'm writing that down for our Monday morning discussion, and we can talk.
Okay. And the next one is from Emily Giganti. She says that it's a struggle to monitor caseload sizes when the program caseload summary does not show how many referrals pre-enrollment each staff has. And also for the FRS role, it would be helpful to have referrals listed alongside pre-enrollment cases on the FRS tickler. Those are both excellent suggestions, and I think that we haven't really integrated the referral process into the ticklers so much. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
No, I know it's been something that we should, but have thought about, but we will take a look at it.
Our plate's getting a little less full.
Yes, Emily, we will get to that hopefully soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and then finally, Joe had a comment on the service plan. And again, we are going to take a look at the service plan and see if we can make at least the data entry part of it a little better. But his second comment was that the printed plan is very hard to follow once a lot of data gets entered. And you're absolutely right, because it strips out the formatting. It strips out basically line endings and new lines and stuff. I'm not sure why we did that. I think we did that for ease of printing. But we will look into that as well, Joe.
Yep. There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have time to look at. So keep the suggestions coming, everybody. And you know what? By the way, we've been celebrating all day today, or I've been at least. It's been a year since we started the one-step process, New York. So yay.
Yeah,
Celebrating or commiserating?
Celebrating.
Yes, we're celebrating. Yeah, we are. We are.
Yeah, it's been a year.
Mhm.
Oops.
So I actually straightened out I think I straightened out my technical issues, so I can try to go back to the transition plan idea that Corinne asked me to suggest during this meeting. So I'm going to try to pull up a case.
Some of you were present at the forms HFA meeting when they put like attention or made reference to the transition plan, and I just wanted you all to know where on the family goal plan you would address that, just to make sure that you were all in knowledge or knowing that you just have to select a family goal plan and then call it your transition plan. And it works exactly the same as the family goal plan, but has additional, so you would have to be on a case.
Right, can you see? Can
Yes.
people actually see my screen?
But you would have to be on the home visit log. And you would add a family goal plan.
That's a
You would
tempting.
have to add a new one. So new family goal plan.
And then
And
there's
now click on transition plan. So basically, you have the option of saying if the parent refuses, you have the option of clicking on refuse. But then if the parent says, okay, let's start this transition plan, it's going to behave the same way. We put a little that the regular family goal plan. So you will have an anticipated achievement date. You would have the goal name would probably be transition plan because they're moving or because they're closing out and you want to do that. What is it? And the goal area would be transition plan. And somebody's calling me, I'm sorry. But the important thing is that you have an additional box that regular family goal plans do not have, where you would be able to put the name of organization, providers, service partners, where you would be suggesting or telling them. So you would have to add the names, and you have a little box there to remind you that you need a consent for each one of the places you're referring to. You need a consent from the family. So if you have it signed, you have there a room where to put that and make sure that you have the consent forms signed. And then you would have, steps. If you scroll down, Corey, a little bit, you can do like the creation of the goal. What are, So the parent is moving or the parent is graduating or whatever, the goal statement, the strengths, the potential barriers, you fill out all the same things. And then you can add steps as to how you're going to achieve the, the different ones. So we're going to reach out to XYZ partner in another state, or you're going to, and so you have achievement dates and whether or not you've achieved. So you can use this same type of form to complete your transition plan. And once you do that, and you go to the case that you were showing Corey before, you would now have among your list of goals, you would have the transition plan. So there, when you select the goal up there, it would say, whatever it is, or you would have the transition plan underneath that would print out all the different pieces to it. Has anybody here on the call used it already to fill out a transition plan? Liana, I see you nodding. Yes. How did that go?
Yeah, we used it with one of our, someone had moved out of the area. So and we transferred actually to Nora's program in Dutchess County. So that was something that KUD actually he taught me how to do it, because I didn't realize that you had to go within the home visit log to actually get to that transition plan. But it went smoothly. And once we were able to once he was able to get her transferred over to Dutchess County, then I was able to input, I was able to then transfer everything over to Nora's program. So it went actually very well.
Okay, and you do have then, if they ever ask for proof of a transition plan, you would be able to print that out and have the list of all,
Right.
how the contact dates that you contacted Dutchess County,
Right.
and what was arranged and everything that, all the, how you prepared or helped that family to move to a new program. So, I was kind of like surprised when last week they paid so much attention to the transition plan at that call. I was like, I wonder what they're bringing underneath their sleeve here. So that's why I wanted to make sure that people are aware that we've had the transition plan for a long time, the ability for you to fill out transition plans. It does say on the BPS that, if it's possible, because you might get, a family that's saying, oh, I don't want your services anymore, and I'm, discharging today. So you don't have time to do a transition. But, they did repeat several times about families graduating and how it was used then. And I am not too sure whether, programs are using it for when families are graduating. And I just wanted to, put it into everybody's radar. Tatiana, your hand is up.
It is.
Yes, I do have a question. So we are working on a new CQI for our program, and I was looking at the service plan discussion, in-depth discussion during the report time frame, which is about the quarter. I noticed that last quarter we had some families on CO listed on the report as the in-depth discussion was not done. So my question to you is, should those families show in that report, since an in-depth discussion cannot be done when a family is on CO? How is that gonna go about? Because otherwise we will never reach 100%.
I honestly, and for this, I know that I'm going to use Corey's thing. I am not an expert on this, and you should certainly talk to your PKNE specialist, but I think that you can and you should be discussing in depth that family if they are on CO, because you're working with your FSS and supervising on ideas on how to re-engage, where are they at, how is that that should constitute an in-depth, but I'm not too sure and I don't want to, but I would definitely find out with PKNE if that is part of what you should be discussing when families are on CO. You shouldn't just put a family on CO and forget about it. You're supposed to be re-engaging, doing activities to try and get that family back on a regular visits. So that should be, that could
Yes, and that happens, but it doesn't incorporate multiple areas of that discussion, because you cannot discuss things if you are not meeting with the family. So you can do referrals if you're not meeting with the family. There's so many aspects that would be considered an in-depth discussion that you cannot do. I do understand with the process of re-engaging family, that's absolutely happening. That absolutely can be documented, but would that qualify as an in-depth discussion? That doesn't look like as far as what we are asked to be within
that is why,
discussion.
Tatiana, I say talk to PKNE
Sure.
to find out, and then let us know, and then we can work around. If they say no, that definitely isn't, then we'll talk about looking into removing families on CO. But having said that, I think that in the BPSs, it says something about level CO families should be included, but
Okay.
don't quote me there.
Sure.
I think this is a great question, Tatiana, because honestly, in tech support, we get a lot of questions related to what you've just asked. And so I'm thinking, Corinne, that maybe we should bring it to our frequently asked questions committee in February, excuse me, to address this, because, we need some guidance on this. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we just in Orange County at the end of last month had Isabel from Prevent Child Abuse New York come and do an in-service for our staff on service plans. And this question came up with her in our training, and it was said that exactly what you said, that we should be documenting on the service plan conversations in supervision, and outreach efforts, having staff reflect back on cheers, and all of that can be documented on the service plan, and it would be considered an in-depth discussion. So it would cover both of those things, Tatiana, that you had mentioned. But all of those conversations can be documented on the service plan as, you would document it, supervisor and staff discussed outreach efforts, or reflected on cheers, see supervision log. And then you could even talk about past referrals that were made. Did they follow through with those referrals? What curriculum used to work with that family? So if they're on creative outreach or even TO, if you're trying to continue to keep them engaged, what are you sending them any curriculum in the mail or dropping it off to their house? Those were all things that Isabel had mentioned were things that could be included so that it would be considered a service plan update and also an in-depth discussion.
Thank you so much, Carly.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much.
And if you have the ability to have one of those trainings, it was completely eye-opening for our program. We had no idea how much we were not doing when it came to service plans until she came. It was like all of our staff were just like, oh my goodness, like we had no idea that we weren't doing things the way that they were supposed to be done. So if you have the ability to schedule one, I highly recommend.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Also, I wanted to mention, and I think Joe, that might so we are modifying the 6.1b to separate the in-depth discussion on the service plan and the quarterly discussion that is needed, because we were running into all these problems that we saw in the last PI period. So now we are going to separate the discussions part of it. So PI 14 and PI 15 will have to refer to two different reports.
Mhm.
And that way, I think it's going to capture better the last discussion held during the last quarter, and it will take care of any discharge or people who were in the quarter for a very short time. So we're working on it. It will come out eventually. Okay.
I agree with Emily, though, that it seems like the whole network could benefit from that, like from service plan and service.
Oh, I think
Including like tech support, because it would help me.
Bikini does those. I don't know what the schedule is, but everybody should be getting it eventually. You know, like we're 55 programs, so it takes a long time to get around. But
In New York State, the other states don't have such resources.
yeah, that's true.
All right, Nora had another question about the caseload, the program caseload summary report. She said that when she has dual role staff, they look severely under case weight. And it's not annotated that they are dual role on that report.
Yeah. That
So I'm sorry, Kareen, what?
No, I'm saying you could be totally right,
Yeah.
Nora.
Yeah. I think we have something in the works, or at least in the planning stages, where we're going to allow you to assign hours per role. That for a while has been on our deep wish list, but it's moving closer to the top. As I said, our plate's getting a little clearer. So hopefully we'll be able to address that. And probably we want to integrate all the cases that are assigned to them, not just the ones that have moved past intake. But that's something else that we will discuss, and we'll probably be changing sometime in the near future.
I'm adding, Nora, I'm adding that to our Healthy Families IT discussion for Monday. I am not guaranteeing that we're going to be able to discuss all of these things, but I am adding it to our discussion list. So they will, everybody can take a look at them. So thank you.
Yeah, and again, we've been working really hard this past year to get everything, that might be needed, and all the changes from the policy and the reports and everything for accreditation in New York. So now that seems to be almost ready, we might have more time, as Jay said, to look at.
I think another thing that's in the works is we're going to have a meeting here relatively soon and look at our backlog of requests and reprioritize them. And I think first we want to make sure that all of the recent changes are completed, that we make sure that everything takes one step into account, that everything takes any CWP programs into account, that dual role workers are handled properly and are accurate across reports and things like that. But once we do that, then we're going to look at our backlog of requests and reprioritize them. And some of the ones that we've discussed today sound like high priority ones. So there should be some action soon, at least in the next couple months.
Any other questions? I just want to say like, thank you to all of you for coming to these meetings and throwing out these questions, because again, you know, I always say this in tech support too, like one person asking a question is probably helping 50 people out there. So when you bring these things to these meetings and we get a chance to interact this way, it really helps everybody. So just saying thanks.
We love our users.
Anything else? So I just want to let everyone know that we will be having a December discussion group on Tuesday, December 19th, and I'll be sending an invite out to that to everybody soon. But, you know, unless anybody has any other questions, and I don't see anything in the chat, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And, you know, just blessings for a wonderful start to the holiday season.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.